The night I watched my husband press his hand against another woman's waist was the night I stopped being the version of myself he thought he owned. The betrayal didn't just break me. It awakened something colder, sharper, and far more dangerous. My name is Rachel Pierce, and I used to believe that marriages only fell apart after years of neglect. I thought affairs came from distance, from boredom, from something slowly eroding between two people. But my story wasn't slow. Cracked open like glass. I met Evan when we were 26, both working in Baltimore. He was finance, I was marketing. He had that calm, collected look, the kind that made people think he had everything under control. I loved that about him. Or maybe I loved what I thought it meant. We built a life that felt predictable in the best way. A townhouse. A stable income. Plans to start a family in the next year. All the quiet American dreams. But subtle signs of wrongness started appearing like flickering warning lights. He became overly protective of his phone. His gym sessions grew longer. His tone shifted, still calm, still steady, but colder. And every time I looked into his eyes, something felt missing, like he'd taken the warmth with him when he left the house each morning. I tried talking to him. He brushed it off with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. And the cruelest part? I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't excited enough. Maybe he was tired. Maybe marriage looked different once the honeymoon phase faded. That's what I told myself. Until the night my entire world changed. It was a Thursday, the kind of day where everything feels routine until it isn't. Evan said he had a late work dinner. Nothing unusual. But something inside me, something instinctive, ancient, protective, told me to trust the uneasiness crawling through my chest. I drove to the restaurant he'd mentioned, planning to surprise him, not to catch him, not to accuse him, just to reconnect. But the moment I stepped inside, I froze. There he was, my husband, laughing. Not the shallow, polite laugh he used around colleagues. The real one, the one he used with me when he still loved me. And sitting across from him was her. Long dark hair. Perfect posture. A smile that had every intention of taking something that didn't belong to her. I watched as she reached across the table, placing her hand over his. I watched his thumb stroke the back of her palm. I watched him lean in, whispering something that made her blush like a schoolgirl. My knees almost buckled. My breath stopped. My entire identity snapped into two pieces. I stepped back before either of them saw me. But I didn't leave. I moved to the side window where the blinds didn't fully close. I watched my husband, the man who vowed loyalty, honesty, partnership, guide his hand slowly around her waist as they walked out of the restaurant. He opened the door for her. She giggled. He placed his hand on the small of her back, guiding her like she belonged to him. That was the moment. Not the touch. Not the whispers. Not the closeness. It was easy. The comfort. The familiarity. This wasn't new. This wasn't a mistake. This was a relationship. And I had been living in a lie curated to keep me soft, quiet, obedient. I sat in my car for almost an hour, trembling, humiliated, heartbroken, and enraged. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break. I froze the way survivors do. The way soldiers do before a battle. I texted him a calm, "Hope the meeting goes well" message. He responded with a thumbs up emoji. His betrayal didn't just hurt. Disrespected me. And respect is the one thing I refused to live without. The next week was quiet. The kind of quiet that makes people think you're healing when you're actually unraveling inside. I watched him get ready in the mornings, adjusting his tie like he wasn't living two lives. He kissed my forehead out of habit, not affection. His scent, once comforting, made my stomach twist. I replayed every moment of our marriage, wondering when I became invisible. But the breaking point came when his phone buzzed while he was in the shower. A name flashed across the screen, Maya. Clients. Clients. Right. Her message preview said. Last night was perfect. Same time Friday. My lungs tightened. My hands shook. But I didn't confront him. Instead, I opened a quiet, private note on my phone and wrote. He's not the man I married. He's the man he hid. In that silence something clicked. Not anger, not sadness. Purpose. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning to leave. And he was stupid enough to think he could do it without consequences. Because Maya wasn't a stranger. She worked at the same financial firm, which meant access, documents, company accounts, client information, and Evan handled investments. That realization hit me harder than the affair. His betrayal wasn't emotional. It was strategic. He was building a new life, a new financial footing, a new relationship. And he was doing it using our assets, our home, and potentially my name. My stomach twisted into something cold. This wasn't just about heartbreak. This was about survival. I wouldn't confront him. Not yet. People who show their anger lose power. But people who wait, people who observe, people who plan, they win. And I planned to win with silence sharper than any blade. My revenge wasn't violent. It wasn't chaotic. It was methodical, legally airtight, psychologically devastating. I contacted a private attorney, one who specialized in financial misconduct and marital fraud. I told him everything calmly, quietly, like I was reading someone else's story. He listened. Then he leaned forward and said, "Mrs. Pierce, if your husband is moving assets, we can trace everything." Everything. With his help, I began collecting evidence. Phone screenshots, financial records, bank statements, location data, work emails, every breadcrumb of betrayal. Then came the legal masterstroke. My attorney suggested filing for legal separation first, not divorce. Why? Because during separation, I could request full financial disclosure, including any accounts Evan didn't want me to know about. If he tried to hide money, it would be considered intentional financial deception, a serious legal offense. The more he lied, the more the law would corner him. But the psychological part, that's where I became dangerous. I pretended nothing was wrong. I cooked dinner. I asked about his day. I kissed his cheek, all while building a case that would dismantle his entire double life. The final piece of revenge was subtle. I made sure Maya was listed as a relevant party in the financial misconduct investigation. Her name would be subpoenaed, her involvement questioned, her job endangered. Not because I wanted her ruined, but because she willingly participated in destroying my life. And consequences have a way of teaching lessons that apologies never could. My revenge wasn't about anger anymore. It was about justice. Dark, patient, lawful justice. The day everything collapsed for Evan started like any other Friday. He showered. He shaved. He left early. Morning presentation, he said. But he didn't know the court order had already been sent to his employer. By noon, his supervisor received the legal request for investigation into improper asset movement involving employee Evan Pierce and external associate Maya Levin. HR called him into a conference room. His boss closed the door, and the illusion of his perfect new life shattered. Meanwhile, I sat calmly on the couch, sipping coffee when he stormed into the house hours later. "Rachel, we need to talk now." His voice cracked, fear not authority. I looked up steady. "What's wrong, Evan? What the hell did you do?" "They're saying I'm being investigated for asset mismanagement. They said your attorney contacted them." "My attorney?" I repeated softly. "Yes. I hired one." He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You blindsided me." "Did I?" I said. "Or did you blindside our marriage?" His jaw clenched. His composure slipped. "Rachel, I made a mistake." "Mistake?" I stood, walked closer. "You weren't leaving. You were replacing me." He swallowed hard. "And now," I continued, "you get to live with the consequences of choosing her." His face went pale. Within weeks, he was terminated from his job. The investigation showed he had shifted small but suspicious client amounts. Nothing criminal, but enough to violate company policy. Maya was demoted. Her involvement was deemed professionally inappropriate. I filed for divorce with full financial backing and documented proof of his misconduct. Got the house, half his retirement, legal fees covered, a future free from him. He got a rented apartment, a damaged reputation, a new lover who suddenly wasn't so confident anymore. The last time I saw him, he looked at me with hollow regret. "Rachel, you destroyed my life." I nodded once. "No, Evan. You destroyed your life. I just stopped covering for you." As I walked away from him, the air felt lighter, not because I won but because I reclaimed myself. And that was the last day he ever had power over me. If this story shook you, inspired you, or made you feel something real, hit like, share, and subscribe. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers and support our growing community.